The Untouchables. Who were they and why they became untouchables? By Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Part 5. The New Theories and Some Questions. Chapter 11. Did the Hindus never eat beef? To the question whether the Hindus ever ate beef, every touchable Hindu, whether he is Brahmin or a non Brahmin, will say no, never. In a certain sense, he is right. From times, no Hindu has eaten beef. If this is all that the touchable Hindu wants to convey by his answer, there need be no quarrel over it. But what the learned Brahmins argue, that the Hindus not only never ate beef, but they always held the cow to be sacred and were always opposed to the killing of the cow, it is impossible to accept their view. What is the evidence in support of the construction that the Hindus never ate beef and were opposed to the killing of the cow? There are two series of references in the Rig Veda on which reliance is placed. In one of these, the cow is spoken of as Agnya. They are Rig Veda 1.164, 27, 4.1.6, 5, 82 to 8, and 7, 69, 71, and 10, 87. Agnya means one who does not deserve to be killed. From this, it is argued that this was a prohibition against the killing of the cow, and that since the Vedas are the final authority in the matter of religion, it is concluded that the Aryans could not have killed the cows, much less could they have eaten beef. In another series of references, the cow is spoken of as sacred. They are Rig Veda 628.1.8 and 8101.15. In these verses, the cow is addressed as the mother of Rudras, the daughter of Vasus, the sister of the Adityas, and the center of nectar. Another reference on the subject is Rig Veda 8, 101.16, where the cow is called Devi, goddess. Reliance is also placed on certain passages in the Brahmanas and the Sutras. There are two passages in the Satapatha Brahman which relate to animal sacrifice and beef eating. One is at 111.1.2.21 and reads as follows. He, the Advaryu, then makes him enter the hall. Let him not eat the flesh of either the cow or the ox, for the command the ox doubtless support everything here on earth. The god spoke, Verily, the cow and the ox support everything here. Come, let us bestow on the cow and the ox whatever vigor belong to the other species of animals, and therefore the cow and the ox eat most. Hence, were one to eat the flesh of an ox or a cow, there would be, as it were, an eating of everything, or as it were, a going to the end or to destruction. Let him therefore not eat the flesh of the cow and the ox. The other passage is at 1, 2, 3, 6. It speaks against animal sacrifice and on ethical grounds. A similar statement is contained in the Apastambha Dharma Sutra at 1, 5, 17, and 29. Apastambha lays a general embargo on the eating of cow's flesh. Such is the evidence in support of the contention that the Hindus never ate beef. What conclusion can be drawn from this evidence? So far as the evidence from the Rig Veda is concerned, the conclusion is based on a misreading and misunderstanding of the texts. The adjective Agnya applied to the cow in the Rig Veda means a cow that was yielding milk and therefore not fit for being killed. That the cow is venerated in the Rig Veda is of course true, but this regard and veneration of the cow are only to be expected from an agricultural community like the Indo-Aryans. This application of the utility of the cow did not prevent the Aryans from killing the cow for purposes of food. Indeed, the cow was killed because the cow was regarded as sacred. As observed by Mr. Kane, it was not that the cow was not sacred in Vedic times. It was because of her sacredness that it is ordained in the Vajasaniya Samhita that beef should be eaten. That the Aryans of the Rig Veda did kill cows for purposes of food and ate beef is abundantly clear from the Rig Veda itself. In Rig Veda 10:86:14, Indra says they cook for 1:15 plus 20 oxen. The Rig Veda 10:91.14 says that for Agni were sacrificed horses, bulls, oxen, barren, cows, and rams. From the Rig Veda 10:72.6, it appears that the cow was killed with a sword or axe. As to the testimony of the Satapatha Brahmin, can it be said to be conclusive? Obviously, it cannot be, for there are passages in the other Brahmanas which give a different opinion. To give only one instance, among the Kamyashtis set forth in the Taittiriya Brahman, not only the sacrifice of oxen and cows are laid down, but we are even told what kind and description of oxen and cows are to be offered to what deities. Thus, a dwarf oxen is to be chosen for sacrifice to Vishnu, a drooping horned bull with a blaze on the forehead to Indra as the destroyer of Vritra, a black cow to Pushan, a red cow to Rudra, and so on. The Taittiriya Brahman notes another sacrifice called Panchasaradhya Seva, the most important element of which was the immolation of 17 5-year-old humpless dwarf bulls and as many dwarf heifers under 3-year-old. As against the statement of the Apastamba Dharma Sutra, the following points may be noted. First is the contrary statement contained in that very sutra. At 15, 14, 29, the sutra says, the cow and the bull are sacred and therefore should be eaten. The second is the prescription of Madhuparka contained in the Grahya Sutras. Among the Aryans, the etiquette for receiving important guests had become settled into custom and had become a ceremony. The most important offering was Madhuparka. A detailed descriptions regarding Madhuparka are to be found in the various Grahya Sutras. According to most of the Grahya Sutras, there are 6 persons who have a right to be served with Madhuparka, namely 1. Ritvija or the Brahman called to perform a sacrifice, 2. Acharya, the teacher, 3. The bridegroom, 4. The king, 5. The Snatak, the student who has just finished his studies at the Gurukul, and 6. Any person who is dear to the host. Some add Atithi to this list. Except in the case of Ritvija, king, and Acharya, Madhuparka is to be offered to the rest once in a year. To the Ritvija, king, and Acharya, it is to be offered each time they come. What was this Madhuparka made of? There is divergence about the substances mixed in offering Madhuparka. Two sources prescribe a mixture of honey and curds or clarified butter and curds. Others prescribe a mixture of 3 curds, honey, and butter. Another states the view of some that those 3 may be mixed, or 5, those 3 with fried yava grain and barley. Another gives the option of mixing 3 of 5, curds, honey, ghee, water, and ground grain. The Kausika Sutra speaks of 9 kinds of mixtures, that is Brahma, honey and curds, Aindra of payasa, Sonya, curds and ghee, Posna, ghee and mantha, Saraswata, milk and ghee, Mosala, wine and ghee, this being used only in Sotramanai and Rajasuya sacrifices, Parivrajaka, sesame oil and oil cake. The Madhava Granth says that the Veda declares that the Madhuparka must not be without flesh, and so it recommends that if the cow is let loose, goat's meat or payasa, rice cooked with milk, may be offered. Another says that other meat should be offered. Another says that when the cow is let off, the flesh of a goat or ram may be offered, or some forest flesh, that is of a deer, etc., may be offered, as there can be no Madhuparka without flesh, as if one is unable to offer flesh, one may cook ground grains. Thus, the essential element in Madhuparka is flesh, and particularly cow's flesh. The killing of cow for the guest had grown to such an extent that the guest came to be called Go-Ghagna, which means the killer of the cow. To avoid the slaughter of the cows, the Ashvatayana Graha Sutra 124-25 suggests that the cow should be let loose when the guest comes so as to escape the rule of etiquette. Thirdly, reference may be made to the ritual relating to disposal of the dead to counter the testimony of the Apastamba Dharma Sutra. The sutra says 1. He should then put the following sacrificial implements on the dead body. 2. Into the right hand the spoon called Guhu. 3. Into the left the other spoon called Uppabhrit. 4. On his right side the wooden sacrificial sword called Fire. On his left side the Agnihotra Havani, the ladle with which the Agnihotra oblations are sacrificed. 5. On his chest the big sacrificial ladle called Dhruva, on his head the dishes, and on his teeth the pressing stones. 6. On the 2 sides of his nose the 2 smaller sacrificial ladles called Sruvas. 7. Or if there is only one Sruva, breaking it into 2 pieces. 8. On his 2 ears the 2 prasitraharanas, that is, the vessels into which the portions of the sacrificial food belonging to the Brahmin is put. 9. Or if there is only one, prahistraharana, breaking it into two pieces. 10. On his belly, the vessel called patri. 11. On the cup, and the cup into which the cut off portion of the sacrificial food are put. 12. On his secret parts, the stuff called sami. 13. On his thighs, two kindling woods. 14. On his legs, the mortar and the pestle. 15. On his feet, the two baskets. 16. Or if there is only one basket, breaking it into two pieces. 17. Those of the implements which have a hollow into which liquids can be poured are filled with sprinkled butter. 18. The son of the deceased person should take the under and the upper mill for himself. 19. And the implements made of copper, iron, and earthenware. 20. Taking out the amendment to the she animal, he should cover therewith the head and the mouth of the dead person with the verse, "Put on the armor which will protect thee against Agni by that which comes from the cows." Rig Veda 10:16.7. 21. Taking out the kidneys of the animal, he should lay them into the hands of the dead body with the verse, "Escaping the two hounds, the sons of Sarma." Rig Veda 10:14.10. The right kidney into the right hand and the left into the left hand. 22. The heart of the animals he puts on the heart of the deceased. 23. And two lumps of flour or rice according to some teachers. 24. Only if there are no kidneys according to some teachers. 25. Having distributed the whole animal limb by limb, placing its different limbs on the corresponding limbs of the deceased, and having covered it with its hide, he recites when the praneta water is carried forward. The verse, "Agni, do not overturn this cup." Rig Veda 10:16.8. 26. Bending his left knee, he should sacrifice Yugya oblation into the Dakshina fire with the formulas to Agni Swaha, to Kama Swaha, to the world Swaha, to Anumati Swaha. 27. A fifth oblation on the chest of the deceased with the formula, "From this one, verily thou hast been born. May he now be born out of thee, to the heaven world's Swaha." From the above passage, quoted from the Ashwalayan Grahya Sutra, it is clear that among the ancient Indo-Aryans, when a person died, an animal had to be killed and the parts of the animal were placed on the appropriate parts of the dead body before the dead body was burned. Such is the state of the evidence on the subject of cow killing and beef eating. Which part of it is to be accepted as true? The correct view is that the testimony of the Satapada Brahmin and the Apastamba Dharma Sutra, insofar as it supports the view that Hindus were against cow killing and beef eating, are merely exhortations against the excesses of cow killing and not prohibitions against cow killing. Indeed, the exhortations prove that cow killing and eating of beef had become a common practice, that notwithstanding these exhortations, cow killing and beef eating continued. That most often they fell on deaf ears is proved by the conduct of Yajnavalkya, the great rishi of the Aryans. The first passage quoted above from the Satapada Brahmins was really addressed to Yajnavalkya as an exhortation. How did he respond? After listening to the exhortation, this is what he said: "I for one eat it, provided that it is tender." That the Hindus at one time did kill cows and did eat beef is proved abundantly by the description of the yajnas given in the Buddhist sutras, which relate to periods much later than the Vedas and the Brahmanas. The scale on which the slaughter of cows and animals took place was colossal. It is not possible to give a total of such slaughter on all accounts committed by the Brahmins in the name of religion. Some idea of the extent of this slaughter can, however, be made from references to it in the Buddhist literature. As an illustration, reference may be made to the Kutadanta Sutta, in which Buddha preached against the performance of animal sacrifices to the Brahmin Kutadanta. Buddha, though speaking in a tone of sarcastic travesty, gives a good idea of the practices and rituals of the Vedic sacrifices when he said, "And further, O Brahmin, at that sacrifice neither were any oxen slain, neither goats, nor fowls, nor fatted pigs, nor were any kind of living creatures put to death. No trees were cut down to be used as posts, no darbha grasses were mown to stress around the sacrificial spot. And the slaves and messengers and workmen there employed were driven neither by roads nor fear, nor carried on their work, weeping with tears upon their faces." Kuttadanta, on the other hand, in thanking Buddha for his conversion, gives an idea of the magnitude of the slaughter of animals which took place at such sacrifices when he says, even I, betake myself to the Venerable Gautama as my guide, to the doctrine and the order. May the Venerable One accept me as a disciple, as one who, from this day forth, as long as life endures, has taken him as his guide. And I myself, O Gautama, will have the 700 bulls and the 700 steers and the 700 heifers and the 700 goats and the 700 rams set free. To them I grant their life. Let them eat grass and drink fresh water, and make cool breezes waft around them. In the Samyutta Nikaya 11119, we have another description of a yajna performed by Pasenadi, king of Kosala. It is said that 500 bulls, 500 calves, and many heifers, goats, and rams were led to the pillar to be sacrificed. With this evidence, no one can doubt that there was a time when Hindus, both Brahmins and non Brahmins, not only ate flesh but also beef. The end.